Episode 3 of the off season, and we have a former star, Brent Moloney, with us. Brent, thanks very much for your time.
G'day, mate. How you going?
Very good. Now we're approaching the trade and free agency period, and you've actually experienced both of those things. I want to start with the trade. So you started at Geelong, made your way to the D's at the end of 2004. What was it like for a young man like you settling into Melbourne?
Yeah, look, it was a interesting time. Just played in a Premier League final for Geelong. Obviously got beat by Brisbane by 6 points at the MCG, and I knew Geelong were going to be a good footy team. We had so much talent: Ablett, Bartel, Kelly, Johnson, Chapman, all these names. And I was really happy at Geelong, and I was up in Noosa at the time. We're on a little footy trip there, just with a few younger players, and got a phone call from my manager at the time, and he said, "Oh, do you want to get traded?" And I said, "Oh, no, not at all. Just played in a Premier League final. Like, we're going to be pretty successful, I think." So, and he said, "Oh, well, there's a few clubs interested. Hawthorn, Richmond, Collingwood, Essendon." And he goes, "Melbourne." And I said, "Oh, Melbourne." Obviously, I barracked for Melbourne my whole life. Our whole family barracks for Melbourne, and growing up as a kid, all I wanted to do is wear the red and blue. And I said, "Okay, Melbourne." I said, "Yeah, well, I'll speak to Melbourne." That was the only club that I wanted to speak to. And my manager called me back and he said, "Neil Danaher's flying up the next day." I'm like, "Oh, shit, I'm on a footy trip." I was like, so I stopped drinking, and you know what I mean? It wasn't really we weren't carrying on or anything. But anyway, I stopped drinking. I was so nervous. The big Reverend was flying up the next day. Neil Danaher, he was like a godfather, to Melbourne supporters. And I remember he flew up. I met him at the surf club, Noosa Surf Club, and met him there. We had our first beer together. He bought the first round. He sculled his first beer, and I was just sipping away. And he goes, "Right, your shout." And he sort of broke the ice, with us. And he said, "Right, you're starting in the middle, round one." And I said, "Oh, beautiful, mate. I'll come over." And we shook hands, and the rest is history. And I got to live my boyhood dream.
You ended up playing 122 games for the D's, but started off a little bit slowly. There was about 3 or 4 years there where you had some injury trouble. Was it frustrating? Did you sort of feel like you weren't really getting a shot at it?
Oh, definitely. There's nothing worse than being in the rehab group and not being able to have influence, on the field, because really that's what you're there to do. So my first year at Melbourne, I think I come fourth in the best and fairest, and sort of only 20 at the time, and thought, how good's this? We played in our first final series, and then I remember playing, going away on the international series, Australia versus Ireland. Did that. Didn't have much of a break over that sort of off season, and sort of come back, and sort of Dana's sort of put it on myself and a few others that we have to compete with the Benny Cousins, the Kerrs, the Judds. We have to be able to run with those blokes. So I had a massive influence on obviously getting a lot fitter and being able to compete against the best. So which in the end I got osteopubis. So I wasn't really I was a strong player, but I wasn't really strong in my core. And it was sort of an injury that, not a lot of medicos knew a lot about. It was just a groin injury, or a bit of groin soreness. So anyway, I got diagnosed that I had osteopubis, and then I ended up having an operation up in Sydney later on in the year. So because you can sort of play with it for a while, and you're sort of running around 60, 70%, and no one can sort of see anything wrong with you. And they're thinking, "Oh, what's wrong with him? He looks a bit slow," or you know what I mean? So it's a frustrating injury, because it's not like a broken leg where you see he's wearing crutches or he's got a bit of plaster on him. It's sort of a tough one to sort of swallow. So, and then I did my shoulder, I think the next year, at Queen's birthday, which sort of derailed half my season, and then obviously Dana's unfortunately he finished up coaching, and then Dean Bailey come on board, and it just gave me a new opportunity, a new lease of life, and I finally got my body right.
You certainly had a few coaches throughout your career. Was it tough, I guess, adapting to a whole lot of different styles?
Yeah. I suppose when you look back at it, having going from Bomber to Neil to Bales. Then we had Todd Viney. I thought Todd was fantastic. I really liked him. I really liked Bales as well. And then into Mark Neild, and then I moved on to Vossi and Lepper. So I had 7 or 8 coaches in, same amount of years, So you've got all these different languages, you've got all these different game plans. So it was difficult, but I did take something from each coach, good and bad. And I actually enjoy coaching. I'm actually coaching at the moment. So, you do learn from each individual, but I was very lucky to have some great coaches along the way.
2011 was your standout year personally, 19 Brownlow votes, won the best and fairest. Do you feel like that was when you could really reach the peak of your powers and sort of show what you had?
Yeah, definitely. I say to kids now, it all comes down to, having a full pre-season and giving yourself the best opportunity to be able to perform week in, week out. Because if you're playing catch up and you're sort of in the rehab group, it's in the end, sort of sometimes, you'll get another injury or something else will happen, you know what I mean, because you haven't done the work. But I felt that 2009 was one of my better years. I think Flash won the best and fairest that year. I come second, and I thought that was a really consistent year because I was able to get a pre-season under my belt. And then 2010, same thing. I was unfortunate to miss 4 games at the end of the year from a corky from Aaron Sanderland. So he'd need me as he was going up for the ruck. I must have run across him and actually couldn't fly back from Perth for 10 days. So I spent 10 days over there.
Not a man.
My leg blew up. So, yeah, the big fella got me. But and then obviously 2011, played nearly every game. And, it's an honour to be able to win. Melbourne best and fairest.
I think of around that time where yourself and Mark Jamar were probably one of the best ruck midfield combos in the comp. Did you enjoy playing with the big Russian?
Oh, yeah. We're obviously best mates on and off the field. And we just had a great connection. Like when I got to the club, Jeff White was the number 1 ruckman and Russian was a younger player, younger guy, sort of making his way through Sandringham. And I sort of challenged him a little bit because he was such a beautiful tap ruckman. Whitey was unbelievable around the ground. He was like another midfielder. He was one of the best kicks in the team. You know what I mean? We wanted the ball in Whitey's hands. But Russian was a different ruckman. He was more of a tap ruckman. He could take marks around the ground, but he probably wasn't as athletic as Whitey. So when Jeff sort of finished up, it gave Russian an opportunity. And we done so much work behind the scenes that people wouldn't have seen, before and after training. We'd just throwing the ball up and I'll be just getting used to the timing and just getting used to, the way he hits the ball. And in the end, it helped us out on match day. And, we had a great connection. But, it wasn't just me. Trainers, Jonesy, Cole Sylvia, Scully when he was there, we all worked well together. And you're only as good as the players around you.
There was a good core group then, a lot of senior players like your Greenies and McDonald's and Davies. Did you build some really strong relationships around that time?
Oh, definitely. I actually ran into Flash at the grand final on Saturday night, and we gave each other a big hug and got a photo together and, caught up for 5 or 10 minutes. And, it's like a brotherhood. Like, it doesn't matter, if you don't speak to them every day, but when you see each other, it's, just like, sitting in the change rooms together, 10 years ago. I speak to Greenie, obviously congratulated him on, getting onto the board, which I think is a fantastic move by the footy club to have someone, a former captain and former champion of the footy club, involved again. Obviously, Russian, all those guys, Brucey, he was a fantastic player. James McDonald did a lot for my career. The list goes on. Obviously, Big Nita, try and catch up with him when I'm in Melbourne. And, as I said, it's a brotherhood. We'll always have that connection, even though we didn't get the success probably we wanted to in the premiership. We'll always be best mates. Yeah.
That 2007 to 2012 era, there really wasn't much success at all at the club. Was it hard playing through that time?
Yeah, look, it was, but when you're in it, you're looking to win the next game. Like personally, I never thought, we're going that, but I knew where we were on the ladder and stuff like that, and I knew we were in a development phase. So we understood, but we're getting little wins along the way. Like you look at Brisbane, 4 years ago, they won 3 games and 5 games, and then they obviously made some inroads last year, couldn't win a final. Then, obviously made a prelim this year. So it takes time, and it's just when you're playing week in and week out, you're going out there to win, and that's what I did. So I didn't feel I knew where we were going to, and how we're going to hopefully finish up, because we had so much talent. Jack Watts, he's another guy I still speak to. We had Watts here. We had a lot of high draft picks, and they just needed time to develop.
At the end of 2012, you actually became the first ever person to nominate for free agency. You went to Brisbane. Obviously, It was a bit of a tough time for you. How do you look back on that sort of decision to leave the club?
Yeah, look, it was the hardest decision of my life, I love the club. I was fully entrenched. I was a vice captain in the leadership group for a number of years. Love the playing group, love the people around the footy club, who I still have a strong relationship with. And it was a tough decision, but I felt personally, myself and Mark, for some reason, didn't get along, and I felt I had better opportunities elsewhere. And it was just a decision that I had to make, and it's unfortunately I had to leave the club that I loved.
You touched on the fact you're a Melbourne supporter growing up. You've still got the Guernsey behind you there. I'm guessing there's not too much bad blood?
No, not at all. Not at all. So I'll always be a Melbourne supporter, and, our whole family breaks from Melbourne. So, there's no bad blood there at all.
As a fan, what did you make of the 2020 season? How did you feel like the boys went into tracking at the moment?
Yeah, look, it was. I think it was a lot better than the year before. We started to see some inroads. Won a lot more games than the year before. A little bit disappointed we couldn't make the finals. In that last round, we just missed those games against Sydney and Fremantle up in Cairns. You win one of those, we probably make the finals, and but who knows how far we would have went. But I think next year, obviously we need to get back in the finals, and that's what the supporters, that's what the members and the sponsors want to see.
And yourself now up in Queensland still, what are you doing with yourself these days?
Yeah, I'm just full-time coaching, actually. I coach a state league team called Williston Grange, the Gorillas. So coach their senior team, look after their whole junior program, and then I work with one-on-one football. So I do a lot of one-on-one training in around southeast Queensland with kids and teenagers sort of aspiring to play AFL. So, I'm doing what I love. And I also work at a few schools around the place.
Fantastic. Well, great to hear you're keeping well, and thanks very much for the insight. Really appreciate it.
No worries, mate. Good to see you.